Welcome back to SketchUp with Starbase. This is Skywalker, and this time around we're going to take a look at a specific project example that'll get you into understanding a little bit about creating shapes, pushing and pulling them, and also about the standard of measure that we're going to use when we're working in SketchUp. So the first thing I want you to do is to come down to this sidebar here, and you'll see there's a lot of different menu options here, many of which we won't get into right away. But one thing we do need to understand is our model info, and you'll see that icon is located here. So click once on model info, and it's going to show us the standard of measure that we're going to be using for the model, and we can adjust that or change it very early on before we get started. So you'll see our standard measure right now is set to about a 1/2 inch standard of standard measure. We're looking to use centimeters for this one because I think it'll keep everything simple and hopefully help you to understand a little better about what we're doing and the measurements and kind of how they relate to each other. So I'm going to have you select 0.0 centimeters for this one. And at any time you can hit this arrow at the top that will close this panel to reveal more of your modeling window. So to get started, we're going to use our rectangle tool to start, and we're going to be creating just a basic chair, first using a additive method. An additive method is kind of like creating each part of the chair individually and kind of creating the chair all as one object. Then we'll take a quick look at the subtractive method. And the subtractive method is as if we're starting with a big block, but then we're going to very quickly carve that block away to reveal the chair that you're looking for. So first thing is you're going to select your rectangle tool, start at your point of origin. It makes it easy to find a good starting place where your axes, blue vertical, green, and red all come together. Click once and stretch out your shape. Now this is an important part of SketchUp to understand that even though our dimensions appear down in the corner in the lower right, at any time you can create any shape, but then immediately type in how big you want that shape to be. So for this starting shape, we're going to do 50 by 50 centimeters. And if you type in numbers, it will automatically default to whatever your measurement standard is. But you have to separate your measurements by a comma, which you can see in the lower right here I've got going on. And you also want to make sure to hit enter after you actually type in your numbers. So it'll automatically customize that shape based on that dimension. So our first shape we're starting with is 50 by 50 centimeters. This is going to become the seat of our actual chair. So next we need to jump over to our push-pull tool. That's going to be the most popular tool we'll use over and over again. You'll see some other tools are hidden there. We're going to just work with push-pull for now. So we're going to have you pull this shape up, touch and hold on your mouse and just pull it up. Again, you can set any height you want. You can pull it up and just leave it. But the goal is we want for this particular height 10 centimeters. So hit 10, 10, and enter. And that will automatically customize your shape based on the dimensions you're looking for. Next up, we need to establish a line that's going to give us the back of the chair. So you'll see over here our line tool looks like the pencil. Select that. And we don't need to be super precise for this particular operation, but if you zoom in close, you'll be able to see a little better. We want a perfect line that's going to represent the back of the chair. So I'm going to start on edge here and click one time. You'll see as you stretch your line across, it defaults to the color of the axes in the direction you're drawing. So right now, you can see our red axis is in this direction, so we can tell that that line is straight. And that's an important built-in function to make sure that we're drawing straight lines. Click a second time and now we have a new shape. And this is probably the most important feature of SketchUp to understand is that any shape you draw on an existing shape, you can then pull into a brand new or push-pull into a brand new object or shape. So we're going to use our push-pull again this time, and we're going to pull this one up. And just to make things simple, we're going to do 50 centimeters again. So 50 and enter. And that's going to give us what looks like a pretty good back to our chair. Next, we've got to orbit or rotate down to the bottom of this object where our legs are going to be created. And for this one, we're going to use a quick tool that can really be helpful to understand, especially early on, and that's the tape measure tool. So the tape measure tool is towards the bottom of your list. Select that one time. Anywhere you select on an edge where you see a red dot, you can pull and push a guide over. These dotted lines don't exist in the model like for modeling purposes to click to, but they will allow you to see this guide that will guide whatever you're going to draw next. So for this one, we're going to set up just 10 and enter 10 centimeters. And then we're going to pull away from the top edge here, or the one based on our orientation, and pull down again and hit 10 and enter. And you'll see we'll end up with a cross section here that's going to represent the size of the leg that we're looking to create. So I'm going to do that from all my edges. So pull this one out, 10 and enter, and finally this bottom edge for us. It's important too not to pull from the center line where you'll see that blue dot, because that will then create a guide that travels across your surface rather than, in this case, we want to just figure out where this next edge is going to be created. So 10 and enter. Now we have our 4 legs basically already mapped out and guided. So click on now your rectangle tool again. You'll see an intersecting point in X where you get right to where that dotted line and your existing edge cross. Just click once and we're going to draw a quick square. Now we need to do that actually for all of our legs, so the other 3 as well. So do that quickly. And if you make a mistake like I just did there, not a big deal. Control Z is going to be your best friend. Tap Control and Z one time, and that will immediately back you up so that you can actually, hopefully, grab a new square here to complete our object. And you can see from this perspective too, another problem has happened. You can see that our square is being drawn from its center rather than the corner, which we were working with before. And that's a default of the program. You can easily get around that if you just click to another tool, like the selection tool, and then click again on your rectangle. So we're going to draw our 3 other leg shapes very quickly here. And you'll see they're snapping right to the existing guides that we were working with. Now we have 4 equidistant, equal squares that we're going to push-pull out to create the legs of your chair. So hover over one of those legs and start to pull that down. And for this one, our leg, we're going to do 50 again. So 50 and enter. And that should give us a pretty solid looking leg. Looks good. Next up, we're going to start to pull our second square. And this is an opportunity to understand one of SketchUp's built-in tools, which is the ability to infer or to match up existing distances or heights of objects within the model. So for this, we're going to touch and hold on this object, pull it out, and then instead of typing in a measurement, we're just going to point our mouse over at any edge or face of the existing leg. And you'll see that'll immediately create 2 legs that are identical. So this is a really great built-in tool, this inferring, that'll allow you to very quickly create the rest of your legs. So do that with me. Pull the shape out and then just point at any existing shape. All right, the last detail we're going to add to this particular chair is going to be just an arc at the top. And in order to get that going, we're going to select the arc tool. And for this one, you'll see there's many different arc choices. I'm going to recommend, you can experiment with any of them, but I'm going to recommend that we use the 2-point arc for this one just to kind of show you how it works and make sure it's relatively simple. So the way the arc tool works with 2-point arc is to click once where you want your arc to start. Click a second time where you want it to finish, and you'll see it'll click to that edge. And then you can flex this arc to set up kind of the custom top of your chair. So that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to click once to finish the arc. And then finally, we're going to use the push-pull tool in a slightly different way. If you grab your push-pull tool, we're going to hover on this surface here. You should see it looks like it's selected with the dots. And then push-pull that away. And if you push it all the way to the back, you'll see that piece actually disappears and leaves us with a relatively good-looking chair. Okay? So right next to this, though, we're going to create another chair, almost identical, but this time it's going to be using the subtractive method. So to check that one out next, click on a chair 2. There should be a link popping up right next to this video. And we'll see you again soon.